Wow, that truly is amazing that those two pieces of land stayed in the family so long and then were joined by marriage. And that truly is amazing that could have happened.
Both of them. And this is the generation that they joined. It was Nellie's bit. It was Nellie's, and then it eventually came down to Daddy Pa. You know.
Wow.
Okay. Interesting, huh?
Fascinating.
It's weird that none of Nellie's family would ever lay claim to anything. You'd fight Daddy Pa over the land.
She didn't have any family.
She didn't have any.
Nellie
Her
did.
mother was dead.
She had no siblings?
No siblings.
No.
Emmett Cox was her father. He wasn't a battler for it.
Okay. All right.
So it was her mother's land that she got?
No, it's hers. She got an allowance. She was a living
Oh, she
Comanche
was
when they
not.
did.
Right, because her half-sisters would have gotten their own.
And they all had their own.
Right,
Right.
right.
There you go.
So there would have been no one
Look how innocent
to
Mom was.
fight for it. Right.
Okay, so any questions on that? We're going to move on to Mom here in a minute. If you want to go to the bathroom or get something else to drink, go ahead. I know it's dragging out long, but
You know, I think, and I thank you so much for this, that you know more than Mom ever even knew.
More than that, we started at 10:40.
Or that she shared with us.
that she shared.
Yeah,
The guns.
Yeah.
and that was a shame, you know, that, I don't know why she didn't think we'd be
Because the
interested.
information was
or-
available through pictures, through letters, through
Maybe a copy
a
of
little
it.
research.
She showed you things
Just like that.
Well, she showed me some things too, letters and pictures and things like that. But I didn't see those things until she lived over on, what was that street just south or north, no, south of Glendale that she lived on, the last house she had? Flynn.
Looks like there was another one sitting there that fell over.
Yeah, especially her, and she'd drag out these boxes of stuff
Sister, she's pushing
to
out.
go through.
Does that help anybody?
No, well, you weren't around, you were in Washington, a lot of that.
She didn't share a lot of it.
No.
But see, and she might have thought nobody was interested, except I am a freak on history.
Well, you know, me too.
I want
That's
to
why
know.
I'm-
And at the time, when a lot of this she shared with that valise that she got after Daddy Pa died, and it had, there were the letters in there, there were these
I remember that suitcase.
wool
that-
mini swimsuits. Wool, long sleeve, they were swimsuits.
I always thought you had it.
Nobody knows what happened to
Yeah,
that
no,
stuff?
that's fine.
Because
not
that's,
around.
Nobody's
that's
messing
what
up if they do.
Nobody's
that's
messing
where the
up, but they
buckskin
got it.
dress was. So
what?
how did you get that? I mean,
What was the question? I missed it.
That was
No, they're
given to
talking about
me
that stuff is missing.
in a bag.
suitcases
messing up.
oh, okay.
Of letters and.
Well, she must have taken it out of the valise.
I
and-
have Mel Cox's degree. I told you that already,
You
right?
told me that it was a copy, though.
No, it's the original.
Yeah,
That's not what you told me.
the original from the suitcase, right?
A copy of that was in this book.
The copy was in the book. No, I have the normal school.
Anybody, I'm just gonna get a quick drink here. Well, see, at the time when she got that valise, I was stay-at-home mom then on Congress in Prescott, and I had to get out of the house once in a while, so Jerry Davis would watch the kids for a little while whenever the museum called me, because I was a guide and, you know, school kids, school groups and things like that, and I'd go down there and like that. And I was taking some training to take oral interviews. And I remember that neighbor of yours, Mrs. Cook,
yeah.
98 years old,
Oh, I
and she
remember
lived in
that.
Prescott the whole time.
remember
She lived in Prescott the whole time, and I asked her if I could do this, and you know, like that. I said, the museum would like to have some old stories. Oh, I didn't do anything. I didn't have nothing happened when I was.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God! 5 hours later, when I got finished,
She used to babysit for some famous movie stars' kids that would come and make movies out at Granite Mills. Tom Mix.
She made us
her father,
Yes.
her father was murdered at Clear Creek, and I told her we could stop anytime you want to. She said, so we got about that, and there were several times, and that when her father's murder was, he was a ranch manager, and it was cattle rustlers, and that was one time. He said, "Oh no, I don't want to put that. I don't."
Maybe that's
So then
Elizabeth.
so then I just had to turn the tape off, because if they request you do that, you
Oh yeah.
and so we just chatted a little bit more and go, you know, that's a really interesting history. I'm sure that it would, you know, be important to them. She finally, okay, well, okay. So then we turned the tape back on and we talked about that a little bit and stuff like that. But it was right about that time when I was doing that for the Charlotte Hall, that Mom got this valise, and she brought it. You know, I talked to her about, you know, these interviews I was doing. I interviewed Hong family. What's that? Anyway, they owned a grocery store, the grocery basket up there, but they were interned during, Second World War. Yeah, and then several others. Florence Ingle, and she talked all about how they rounded up all those little Yavapai Indians. The parents hid them out in the country, but the U.S. Marshals, because they want to take them all down to the new school, and they didn't want them to take their kids, so they hid them out all in the country around here. U.S. Marshals came in on a train, and they just grabbed them all, took them away. Anyway, so I did a lot of oral interviews. So I sat down one day with Mom and did an oral interview with her, and took on. That's where I got these stories, some of these stories from, things like that.
So she brought the case up to you, and then she took it home with her.
Yes.
And hasn't been seen since? Or
It's buried somewhere.
I have a bunch of pictures of Aunt May's missionary work. But I got them
Maybe
from
she
you.
actually did something else with
And whatever
everything in it and
happened
got
on
rid of
Aunt
the
May's
memories.
film on Reel that she took, when she was down in Mexico with all the little kids. Remember we used to watch them and when I was just a baby and I was in those galvanized tubs and in the backyard of Aunt Lena's house on Cridge Street.
I don't know where they are.
Mom was giving me a bath.
Next to the suitcase.
I've never seen that. I think we watched that one time on Thanksgiving when I was very, very young. I think somebody pulled that out and set that up. Because I remember seeing some video of
Maybe
just you
there's
and
a
Debbie that were
storage
born,
unit somewhere.
right? It was just a few minutes of
Well, I
video.
remember there was one with Daddy in it, and Hal
With that $800 Buick.
Balo was showing it and it melted, the film melted or something, it was so old. I don't
Now,
know.
I'm so intrigued. It's like the mystery of the missing alligator case.
I think the case disintegrated. What we're concerned is what the stuff that was
Well, that's
in.
what I was saying, maybe she actually took the stuff out of it and did other things with it,
Yeah,
divided it
because it
up.
was falling apart or something.
But I mean, nobody claims to have any of those things, though. The letters or the swimsuits or, right? No one's ever made any mention of any of that stuff.
Well, let's go dig up the bird farm.
She wouldn't have donated it through like NIWA or anything like that, right? Because of
She
loopholes.
wanted to donate some stuff to the Christian
The gears
church.
turned.
Yeah, she wanted to give Aunt May's missionary work stuff to
Yeah.
the Beatitudes, and they didn't want it.
Well, I don't know
They
who
don't
bought
care about a
letters
missionary.
after that either.
No, she was. I think it was more of the films and stuff. Aunt May's work down there in Mexico. Because she was sponsored by the Christian church.
Okay, so I don't know how many have not looked at it or if anybody wants to look again.
So at that time,
Would Deb-
when
that coffee
Debbie
is
was
really
So boring.
We made it, right?
But
at that time,
this is Nellie's buckskin dress. Her the
I
ceremonial.
can't believe it's such in great shape still.
And we have one legging.
Wait a
We
minute.
all have huge feet. Mom wore like a size 11 or 12. And this is like a 7 or 6 or something like that. It's really small. So when Mom was active in Iowa and things like that, she wanted to have a pair of leggings like this.
In her size.
In her size.
Couldn't get those on.
So she sent one of them to a bootmaker that I think was recommended by James and Marie back in.
James and Marie. She sent it to Marie.
She sent it to Marie because Marie knew a guy or whatever like that, and she was
And we
going to
never
have
saw it again.
them made up. We've never seen it again. It can't be tracked down. It's just
Nobody
gone.
knows what happened.
Did anybody call her and her family?
Yeah, but nobody did.
There's
Oh, Mom tried, I remember Mom trying for a long time. She was really upset.
I've worn that dress. I've got pictures of me in that dress.
Did she ever get the boots made though?
No, nothing. I remember her trying to track it.
That's the same dress that she's got on in some of those pictures.
Right, no, I know.
Yeah.
That's funny that Nellie was such a large woman, but she has such tiny feet, huh?
No, if she was 100, that's what I'm saying, if she was 180
80 pounds.
No,
but
but I
how
mean,
tall was she?
In some
she
of these
pro-
pictures where
probably
she's really
5'8",
tall and has
5'9".
really large hands and a large structure.
Yeah, beautiful
Tiny
hands
feet.
though.
But
Very
she,
pretty hands.
she
They
doesn't
bound her.
seem like she was, if she was down to 145, if she was trying to lose weight and got down to 145, however tall she was, that's,
Then.
yeah.
so anyway, but that's her dress. And
Wow. Now that's museum quality, right?
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Do we know what year that was
Smithsonian.
made or anything?
There's even somewhere there's a hole that shows where the deer that
Where
that
you
came
got
from was
yeah.
shot.
Well, there's several of them. They put little hide patches on 'em, you know.
Isn't there one by your finger there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's one right there. Yeah, and then
Debbie, if the antique road show comes through, you should take it there. They will suggest you to get it to Smithsonian.
Oh, yeah, the Hurt Museum doesn't even have that nice
Put
neighborhood.
it on loan.
Why hasn't this been in a glass box for 20 years?
Yeah, people touching it.
Of course, yeah, to dry it out and stretch it, yeah.
We always
Are those-
said when
Makes
we were
neat
little.
little
bullet holes.
Debbie, are those porcupine quill beads
Holding out for dear life.
on the front? Are those porcupine quill beads?
there's some kind of bone.
Because I did a big research paper on the Comanches in college, and porcupine quill beads were one of the major currencies of the Comanches.
But you know how they soften the leather for this? They chewed it to soften it, so it was a
Your
lot
wedding
of work.
day.
So this is quite extraordinary.
And you can't hurt it by patching it. If you got chocolate
Nothing, I
kids or
completely
something
screwed
don't
all
do
up.
it.
What I do?
You had a brain fart.
I had the
Well, something's
curator,
happening.
I asked the curator, because they shot a hole.
Yeah, that's the
Somebody
wrong
talk
about it.
for.
And he said,
What do you wear for that?
he said, body oil that doesn't hurt.
And don't keep it hidden in a box
So
or
what it
something.
fit right now?
What he told me was, if you're not going to package it, archive and seal it, the simplest thing you can do with it is wrap it in a cotton sheet and start. So that,
The other thing
The
I
hanger,
learned,
won't that also let this?
oh, it doesn't stay on a hanger. It's been on here for a couple of hours
That's
now.
just to show us.
the other thing that I learned with the beadwork, all the patterns and stuff denote like family lines, matrilineal family
It's all
lines
symbolic of
is what
things,
they're supposed to.
I think, yeah.
In the Comanches, the beadwork denoted matrilineal.
See, and all of this was done by the women. The men didn't do this sort of thing.
If you see those photos of the Indian club, he had it made. Yeah, I'm not. That was really good.
So, yeah, so that's not something she inherited from her family then. She had
So
it.
some dude that makes
Yeah, it was
couches
made
made
for
that.
her.
No.
She said
They tried to have it made.
Yeah,
but it
For
was
her.
for this club.
yeah.
Indian
To
club
represent her tribe.
So we would be at least 100 years old.
Nellie commissioned
It
it.
says of the 60-odd Indian tribes in Oklahoma, 7 were represented in the club. So that would have been her representing herself in the club. That's probably it. That makes sense.
That's what Mom told me.
And that makes sense, because that's what they're talking about. They're represented in
Isn't
the
all this
club.
interesting, fascinating?
Wow.
I'm still
And there she
trying to
is, and it's
follow.
right there.
Yeah, it is a little difficult because we've got children.
And that's
We've got
this
two
time
families
frame.
and
That's
More
when
than
this
that,
was taken.
intertwined in there.
That all makes sense.
Okay, so,
Wow.
History.
I can't read.
Nellie,
Did you like history?
Nellie died. Grandma was 2 years old.
Barbara.
Barbara was 2 years old,
Nellie was,
It's like,
and Nell was 6. When I called, I had called, Nell is 94 now, and she's in a rest home now. But I had called Freddie to give him a heads up on Mom's condition.
That's her son, Nelson?
Yes, older. I called Freddie to give him a heads up, give her a heads up.
and the red hair shows up in him too.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so then when I talked to him
yeah.
following that, he said, "Well, Mom is very upset, about Barbara, and be sure and keep him informed." She said, but she just wept, and she said, "I remember sitting on Mother's hospital bed, Nellie's hospital bed, because she was 6 years old, and she said the last thing my mother said to me was, 'Take care of the baby,' which was Barbara, And so that's what she told Freddie, that her son, that day, when he had to go tell her that Mom was, not gonna survive. Anyway, so
Now, which of Nell's children was it that came to Grandma's funeral here?
Martha.
And,
So Nellie died. E.B. Wilson, working for the Sun Oil Company. And he's out, so he goes from town to town all over Texas and Oklahoma. He's out out in the field, oil exploration, you know. Okay. So he's got these 2 little girls. So, at the time, Aunt Lena and Jay Wesley were living in Edmond, Oklahoma. You know, he was the revivalist in Edmond, Oklahoma. And
I thought that was May that was married to him.
No,
May was
May
the
never
missionary,
married.
never
They never.
Okay, I just got them
She
mixed
was
up.
in Mexico.
Okay, so the 2 girls went and lived with Aunt Lena and Jay Wesley and their 2 kids, Anita and Bobby. Those 4 cousins grew up like brothers and sisters. So they stayed with them part of the time, but then all summers and everything like that, they headed straight to Riverside and stayed with her grandma and grandpa Wilson in the Cridge Street house. And then this stuff happened after a few years with Jay Wesley. Aunt Lena took her kids, and all of them moved into the Cridge Street house with grandma and grandpa Wilson. So they were all, it was a multi-family,
All four children,
all 4 of the children.
Lena and grandma and grandpa.
Yeah, and then Daddy Pa would come out and visit all the time, you know, time and stuff like that. And every 2 years, Aunt May would be on sabbatical, and she'd come home to Riverside for 6 months. Get her teeth done, get dentistry done, get health back to whatever, because she was in a very small area called Aguas Calientes in
She
Mexico.
reminded me of Julia Child.
Yes, yes, she was. Yeah. Anyway,
But
so,
I remember Mom saying those were some of the happiest years,
yes.
because it was a big family, they were all together.
Generations, uncles, cousins, you know, grandma and grandpa, all live in the same big house.
So 2 questions. I believe that it's her who had the big set of Bible books, the turquoise colored Bible books. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Her.
And she gave them to you.
Who, Aunt Lena?
Aunt
Because in Holbrook, she came
Lena.
to stay
Yes.
at your
That's
house.
Aunt Lena.
Aunt Lena
Okay.
did go stay
I have
up
those
there.
books now, so those are Aunt Lena's books. I have them. And then the other thing is,
Aunt Lena was always extremely close to Mom. When our dad died, she moved out here and lived with us
Stayed
stayed for a long time. Because she raised her like her own little daughter or
Correct.
whatever, you know. Yeah, those
I
things.
had also been told as a child that Grandma and Nell got sent to Mexico to live with May, who was a missionary there.
They did get
No.
sent there, they went
They
there to
went to
do
visit.
summer.
There's pictures of them in
On a
social
boat,
media,
like-
on, you know, the floating boats, floating gardens of Mexico City and
Because I
stuff
had
like
heard
that.
that.
But they just visited, yeah.
They were gone for quite a while, but I mean, it was just a visit. They-
Well, Mom told me that she could speak Spanish and she would get along just fine, but they said she had a Texas accent.
Yeah,
Buenos dias.
Some tacos and some
Buenos dias, y'all.
Grandma could speak Spanish.
Yes,
I
and she
never-
still could.
I never once in my life heard
She
her
used
speak
to come to
Spanish.
my
Oh, yeah.
church on every Tuesday and Thursday because we opened the doors for food boxes and clothing. And it was mostly Hispanics that would come, and so they asked Mom
see
to
the
come
picture?
and translate. And she did.
You know
I
what
never
kind
once
of
in my
car that
life.
is right
Did you ever
there?
hear Grandma speak Spanish?
Did you ever hear me speak Spanish?
You speak Spanish too?
I take care of the, you know, non-speakers and stuff that would come to the school.
I didn't know you spoke Spanish either.
I don't really, but
I can
really
understand if you
understand
get
it.
it all, I don't get the idea.
Which one? Across the window.
Okay, so let's move on with
Top left.
Barbara. So these, I put together some pictures in like a timeline. I didn't have letters to go from, but on the back of the there's information written on the back of most of the pictures, you know. So that's just what I put up front. So here's Nell and Barbara in 1924. Mom would have been 2.
I need some better light.
I mean, she's born in 1924. So she's not a year old yet. Okay. So Nell and Barbara in Dallas.
She's got a bunch of teeth though.
Got a bunch of
Who's
teeth.
that little kid down
That's
below?
a doll. That's a baby doll.
I thought that was one
For a new baby.
See, I'm not the only one.
What's wrong with that?
There was a third daughter.
I thought that baby was Barbara. She was born in 24 and that was her.
No.
She was such a
Sure with the
Yeah.
cheeks.
She was.
And then
This picture reminds me of Kathy and Rachel when they were about that age.
then Nellie feeding, you know, Mom.
Which is super sweet picture.
And then Anita and Bobby Runyon and Nell and Barbara in Edmond.
Who's Runyons?
That was Aunt Lena's married name, Runyon.
Runyon.
Okay, so
That's Aunt Lena's kids, Bobby and Anita. and then Nell and Barbara, just
Okay.
at their house with, you know,
Okay.
while they
When
were
did
there.
Bobby
So
with his,
grandma and her sister now went to go live with them
his-
after their mom died.
Oh,
what do they call
They were
those?
the Runyons.
okay.
funny
And that's the same group in the picture down below,
Panama hat?
you know, same picture down below.
Which
Nell
one
and
is grandma
Barbara.
in the middle picture? The
That's-
shortest one?
No, that's Anita. This is,
It's kind of hard to
Grandma.
right in the, okay,
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to see.
mhm.
Well, she always had exactly
So-
the same haircut her entire life.
The bowl haircut.
That's the Buster Brown haircut.
Yeah. And then on the next page, on the back of this thing, it says, and it's in Mimi's handwriting. It says, E.B. Wilson, bringing the children home, September 7th, 1933. So by 33, he had married Mimi. She was a secretary in one of the in one of the oil company offices.
So the two girls lived with their aunt and uncle
For a while, and then they
for
all
a
moved
while
back to.
until he got remarried, or just for the summer?
Continuously until he got remarried.
Until he
She-
got
Because
remarried.
he didn't have any, he was all over the place and had nowhere to
Grandma,
raise them.
Barbara, was 7 years old when they came to get the girls and take them, because he says, this is your new mother.
Oh,
No,
it would've
she's
been
about
later
10.
than that.
10? I thought she always told me she was
That would have
7.
been
Well,
9.
33,
Yeah,
she
24.
was born in
33,
24,
9.
should have been
Yeah.
9.
Well, that must have been really awful for her.
Yeah.
That was the only
It
mother
was
she ever
hard.
knew.
She
right?
had to leave her big family, her cousins, having a fun time, and go live with Mimi.
So they, yeah. See, that's what I'm thinking. Well, the worst of it was she got Mimi.
Well, there's a happy family right there. saying,
Yeah.
Oh, you've never heard the story about me?
Extremely prejudiced.
Okay, so then the next picture is a picture of the new family. Daddy Pa, Mimi,
And the
Nell,
girls?
and the girls.
So
And,
that's so weird. She married a man with 2 Indian daughters,
Mhm.
and
And
But she
they
forbade
were
them
not to
to-
speak of it.
Mhm.
I know, but I mean that's
Don't
so